Glib Audiostories presents The Psychic, Episode 3 by Silas, Maximo, and Pinkleat. Rob wouldn't call for about a month. He was fine. He was an adult now. Okay, so 18, but that meant he could handle himself. Until he had started to run out of money and couldn't afford to stay in the hotel anymore. If he didn't call, he would be on the streets, and there was no way in hell he was going to go crawling back to his dad like he was so sure his dad expected him to. So, he rung up the only other person he thought could help. The phone would ring for a moment, then a familiar voice would pick up. Yes, this is Gideon Payne? Rob was silent for a long moment. This is Rob Byrne, your nephew? As if he forgot. You said to call if I needed help? Of course, the voice would say quickly. What did you need? Some money? Lodging? Yeah, actually, I'm kinda broke, and I can't stay at that motel anymore. I can send a car to take you to my apartment. I'm sort of stuck at work, he would say with a chuckle. Okay, is your daughter there? He wasn't sure how he felt about being around a hugger. He wasn't much ready for close contact right now. Ava? No, she's with her mom right now. I get her this weekend, he would answer, his tone making it sound normal that his daughter didn't live with him all the time. Rob let out a sigh of relief, though he was a bit confused. He'd heard about kids hopping between households when they had split parents, but barely. People in the religion, the cults, or whatever you want to call it, they never really broke up, and on the rare occasion they did, they would cut off all contact with each other. He himself had just stayed with his dad the whole time and had, of course, never met his mom. It was weird hearing that this man's daughter was apparently shared between the two of them. Were they friends? Was that even possible? He didn't ask. Instead, he said, Okay, what time will you be home? Gideon said. I think around 6:30. He would almost ask, If I'm running behind, I'll let you know. Is this a reliable number to contact you with? Yeah, Rob sighed. It was the beat-up old flip phone he'd bought for himself in secret when he started getting dealers, but yeah, it would work. Wasn't like he had a better phone anyway. All right, where are you right now? Rob gave his location, looking around. A few moments later, a black car would pull up, its windows tinted. The driver window would roll down, a pleasantly plump woman driving the car. Are you the fella Mr. Payne wanted me to pick up? She would ask. I guess? What the fuck are you saying, Rob? Yeah, that's me. Sorry about the wait. Why don't you hop on in and I'll take you where you need to go? She would say, clearly not a care in the world and happy. Rob laughed slightly. What wait? He hopped into the back seat. What's your name? She would ask him, driving down the road, making odd turns as she went, somehow never reaching a red light to stop, as every light ended up green. In fact, she never had to change the speed she was driving as she went along. Rob seemed a bit weirded out, but tried to push down the emotions. He was so bad at pushing down his emotions, though. Rob. He stared out the window, afraid she was taking him someplace bad. Nice to meet you, Rob, she would say happily. We're here. She stopped in front of a tall apartment building. Just tell the man at the front desk you want to go to Mr. Payne's place, and he'll help you. Okay, thanks. He cleared his throat as he exited the car and took a deep breath as he looked up at the apartment building. The building was tall and looked old. It had an Art Nouveau design on the outside, and it towered up into the sky. Rob just stared for a long minute before taking a deep breath in and walking in. He went up to the receptionist. Hi, I need to get to Gideon Payne's apartment. He invited me. He honestly never been to an apartment building before, so he didn't know how this was supposed to go. The man at the front desk would put down his book and nod, handing Rob a key. He'll take the elevator up to the 18th floor. His place is room 1853, he would say somewhat sleepily. Inside, the place looked modern and clean, clearly well kept by management. Rob would nod and take the key. The elevator took him to the 18th floor, and walking down the hallway, he found the apartment 1853. There was a small click noise as he unlocked the door and opened it. The apartment itself was big. There was a large window showing the skyline of the city, along with the kitchen and door leading to what could be assumed were either bedrooms or bathrooms. The apartment almost looked too clean, as if it wasn't lived in all the time. The only things that made it feel like an actual home were pictures on the wall of Gideon and a young blonde girl, and some with another woman with short hair. One picture stood out amongst them, with what looked like a very young Gideon next to a girl around his age and an older man with a hand on both of their shoulders. The children had plastered smiles on their faces, as the man looked pleased at the camera. Rob glanced around at the pictures. This was weird. This whole situation was weird. He wasn't used to getting help in the first place, and the place didn't look lived in. That unnerved Rob, to say the least. Rob did not do anything that involved moving anything or taking anything out of place. It wasn't his house, and the owner wasn't even there. He did end up falling asleep on the couch, though. Around 6:45, Gideon walked through the door, a relieved look on his face. "Hello, Rob." Rob was just waking up and jumped at the voice. "Oh, God, Gideon, you scared the shit out of me." Gideon would hold up his hands. "Sorry about that," he would say sheepishly. "Are you hungry? I could order food here or make you something." Rob sniffed and shrugged. "Sure, thanks." "All right, how about a pizza? Haven't ever heard problems with people and pizza. Are you allergic to anything? Any type you prefer?" The boy hesitated. "It's not really junk food," Gideon would chuckle, knowing why Rob was hesitating. "It's really just put in that category due to it being easily made, but as far as I checked, bread, tomato, and cheese wasn't considered junk food in the Bible or any place in the world." Rob shook his head. No, I don't care about that. It's just, what if I don't like it?" He couldn't not finish it. That would be rude, and it would make Gideon mad. Of course, that's what Rob thought. "Then we'll make you something you do like," Gideon said with a small shrug. "Or, if you just want to play it safe, we can make something you do like to start off." Rob looked confused. "I can't eat two things, and I don't like finishing food that I don't like, so I don't want to make you mad or anything." "Then we'll make what you do like," Gideon said with a nod of confirmation. "And I'm not going to get mad at you, Rob." Rob nodded back. "Thanks. I just don't want to be rude." "You're not being rude at all," Gideon said with a smile. "So, what do you want for dinner?" Rob stayed silent for a minute before shrugging. "How about a PB&J?" Gideon asked. "Okay, yeah, that sounds good, thanks." Gideon would start to take out the ingredients to make a PB&J, making Rob a plate. "How have you been?" "I've been fine, thanks." "That's good. Looks like you're healing up well, too," he would say, looking at Rob's face. Rob looked down as Gideon eyed him. "Yeah, it wasn't that bad. Besides, it meant the hospital gave me the good drugs." "I thought it looked pretty bad," Gideon said, putting the food in front of Rob. Rob just shrugged, with an, He automatically started to pray in his head, but stopped himself and made a face. After that, he dug in. Gideon started to put the bread and jams away, seemingly not making any food for himself. "What did you do for the month I didn't hear from you? You were safe, right?" Rob just shrugged. "Yeah, I was safe." "That's good," Gideon said with a nod, leaning back on the counter. "Have you heard from your mom?" Rob went silent. "I'm guessing that it didn't go as planned, huh?" Rob shook his head. "Went exactly how I expected it. Exactly how he dreamt it the night before. She asked how I got her number, told me to leave her alone." Gideon frowned slightly. "She's scared is all, Rob. It will be okay." Rob just shrugged again. "You act like I give a shit." Gideon raised an eyebrow. "Is it that you don't care, or not acknowledging the pain makes it hurt less?" Rob rolled his eyes. "Wow, great talk, Doc. When's the next appointment?" "Depends on when you're next free," Gideon joked around. Rob didn't laugh at that. He just shook his head. Why was this guy trying to fix him? We literally met one time. "All right, I'll admit it. My joke was bad," Gideon said, holding his hands up in defeat. "But at least I'm not making dad jokes." Rob rolled his eyes. "Okay, How's the PB&J taste? Fine, Rob said after swallowing. Thanks again. You're welcome. I always try to help out family. Rob went quiet again and shook his head. Look, he finally said, I really appreciate all this, but I don't actually know you. I mean, yeah, you're my uncle, but we only met once, like a month ago, and you don't find this weird? I'll admit it is a little weird, Gideon said, nodding slowly, but I have to put that aside because what matters more is you, making sure you're safe and treated well from now on. But why? Because it's the right thing to do. Why? It's what people should do. Help others in need. What if you're mad at them? What if they won't listen? Then sometimes the best way to protect yourself is to both emotionally and physically move away from them. Give yourself time to grow and heal and hope that they grow too. Rob looked down. That fucks people up, you know. Gideon replied, I'm just speaking from what I've learned. You may find another way. Yeah, well, it seems pretty much everyone knew that my whole life, and look where that got me. No, Rob. Not everyone knows how to handle things. We learn from experience or help from others. You don't get it. No, Rob, I do, he said, crossing his arms. I was in the same place you were in. I left at 18. I was homeless for almost a year, but I had no one on the outside. Nothing. Zip, nada, zero. But you have support, and people who want to get to know you and care about you. Rob was quiet for another long while, then he just put his head in his hands. Gideon walked over, gently placing a hand on Rob's shoulders. I know this is tough, but you're not alone. Rob looked up at him, then turned away. Though he turned away, he did so in such a way that he sort of pressed into the man's hand. He really appreciated the touch. He hadn't been touched in a familiar way in over 2 years. His dad rarely ever did it. Gideon would not remove his hand if Rob didn't move away from it. I know you're afraid, Rob, but you have to have a little trust. I only want to help you and allow you to discover the world and who you are as a person. Rob sniffed. His nose was stuffed with unshed tears. How? You already started it. You were brave enough to leave, and now you took a step towards trusting me to help you. You can stay here as long as you want, and I can get in touch with a therapist who can help you process everything you've been through and heal. Rob shook his head. I wasn't brave, I was fucked up and drugged up. I probably would have been too weak to tell the truth if I wasn't. No, you were brave, Gideon said, still resting his hand on Rob's shoulder. You were in a low place and rose up to help yourself. Rob was quiet for another minute before suddenly, I didn't get an exorcism. Daddy dear snapped and pushed me down the stairs. Most of the church didn't even know about my powers. The rest of them thought I was some kind of prophet. Gideon was silent for a moment, his lips thinning as he thought. What are your powers? Rob hesitated. He'd spent years, no, his whole life not talking about them, and now he was just going to spill everything to a man he'd met a month ago? Yep. I can see the future? Well, kind of. I don't usually get waking visions, just dreams, nightmares that come true. Are these visions painful when you get them? Gideon asked, clearly concerned. Rob shook his head immediately. No. Nah. Not usually. Just scary, I guess. I mean, sometimes. Sometimes they're not that bad. I'm glad it doesn't hurt you, but I'm sorry that they scare you sometimes. You know, there are schools for psionics. They can help you learn how to control your powers. Rob looked back at him skeptically. Schools? Why would I want to go back to school? He'd graduated about a month before everything happened and didn't plan on going to college. The schools that he'd been to weren't exactly kind to him. You don't have to if you don't want to. There are many options to help out psionics these days. It's just an option for you to learn more about yourself and your powers. If you want, we don't have to do anything. Or I could have someone come help you, one-on-one. I Still don't get how anybody would be able to help, Rob said. Well, there are other people who see the future. Granted, it is a rare ability, but you're not alone, Rob. And you don't have to be alone if you don't want to. Yeah, but I'm not even awake when I do it, Rob sighed. Okay, thanks. It's gonna turn out all right, Rob, Gideon said, rubbing his thumb back and forth on Rob's shoulder. Rob sniffed and leaned into the touch, his face crumpling as he nodded. Gideon would reach out, and if not stopped by Rob, would pull him into a hug. Rob would try to pull away at first, but realizing he wasn't going to hurt him, he pressed closer. Let it out, Rob. You're in a safe space. Everything is going to be okay. The boy curled up and started to cry. God, Rob said, viciously rubbing away his tears. God, I look weak. No, you don't, Gideon would say, still holding Rob in a hug. You are not weak, you hear me? You have survived so much, and you are so strong. You don't know what I've survived, he croaked out. Probably a lot less than Gideon, he thought. He had no right to be acting like this. You're right. I don't know what you've been through, but that's in the past now. You don't need to bottle up your emotions anymore. You can do whatever you want now. Well, you can't rob a bank or commit crimes, but you can do other stuff, like eat candy or watch television. Gideon smiled at Rob. Your life is going to become what you want it to become. Rob would continue looking down, then he squeezed his eyes shut. Maybe. Gideon took a step back, looking down at Rob with a smile, his hands still resting on Rob's shoulders gently. Rob looked up at him, but pulled away when he did. Seeing the man smile in this situation scared him a little bit, if he was honest. It reminded him of the elders and his father trying to make up with him after he complied with his punishments. Though this man's smile wasn't dead like theirs was. It still unnerved the kid. Why, though? Why did he have to be so goddamn sensitive? The man was literally doing nothing wrong. Here, you look like you need a tissue, Gideon said with a light chuckle, walking over to the bathroom and getting a box of tissues to give to Rob. Rob looked down again and sniffed. He took the tissues when they were handed to him and blew his nose in one. Thanks. Gideon gave him a reassuring nod. Of course. You don't need to worry, Rob. Now, is there anything you want to do? We could watch a movie, or I could show you the spare room if you wanted to unpack your things. Rob shook his head. I don't have any things. I didn't have a way to move anything, and I wasn't going back to that house after the hospital anyway. Could I just sleep? Yes, you can, Gideon said, leading Rob to a nice guest room. Bathroom is right next door. Though you'll have to share it with Ava when she comes over. I'm sure there's an extra toothbrush around here, too. Do you have any pajamas? Rob shook his head at the question, not saying anything. I'll let you borrow some of mine, then, Gideon said with a smile. And if you need anything, please don't be afraid to let me know, and I'll see what I can do. Thanks. Rob realized he was fanning himself again and stopped. He fell asleep once he had the night clothes, but he wouldn't be able to sleep for long. He had another nightmare. A man with a scarred face, clearly from trying to scratch his skin off, would laugh maniacally. With a quick flourish of his hand, people who were running from him would drop, a white wisp leaving their mouths and floating into small jars on his person. He would laugh as he stepped over the bodies, passing them. A few of them would escape, one of them being Gideon, who would press a big red button, iron doors shutting and closing out the scarred man. Gideon would start to yell out orders to the others, when one of them would seemingly stop and look directly at Rob, tilting her head slightly. Who are you? She would ask, reaching out slowly toward Rob, and Rob woke up in a cold sweat, crying. You have just finished The Psychic, Episode 3 of Glib Audiostories. Thanks for listening! Hey guys, it's Silas, and I'm very excited to say that now you can buy the Psychic merch over on society6.com/SilasOScott. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.